Hello, hello, hello. How are you, those who are coming in and those who will be seeing the replay? I am Samuel Tolbert, Sound of Joy Music Services. It's just my camera. I have so many lights on to make sure that I give a good presentation. I've even gone to a lapel mic so that I don't have a microphone swerving around me. It's good to be here in the month of September, the 10th month of the year 2023. Don't know how long YouTube will be in existence. Uh, Long after I'm gone, I hope. But this gives me an opportunity to leave a digital footprint that I was here as I'm holding this conversation about the. I have to change my glasses too. Holding this conversation about the soulful sound of gospel piano, I picked the era in which I was first immersed into the sound of gospel music as a young 17-year-old church musician, given an opportunity to serve in my first church, the Kelly Temple Church of God in Christ, back in April of 1973. And as I was immersed into the standard of the sound of church then, taking my theory and my skill set from being immersed in the era of jazz band music, transitioning that same sound into the traditional church. It's like something has frozen
Now
here.
playing jazz on Apple Music. You
Oh,
can
look at this. I'm sorry about that. I have my iPad is listening to me for some reason because I said something. All right, I got to be careful talking around Siri. I just mentioned her name. So, as I was saying, breaking my train of thought, being immersed in that sound of.
Now playing jazz on Apple Music.
Okay, you know what? I'm trying to quit this thing from. Well, at least I sound good. I'm listening to myself on my uh, iPad. Just want to monitor who's here. So I gotta be careful now what I say. So this sound is one that the gospel sound was beginning to be accepted past the sound of the spirituals, anthems, and the hymns to now have to immerse myself in the same genre of which I came up in as an instrumentalist. I got to get careful of the word I use. Adding it to the gospel sound was second nature for me and a joy. So I selected the era of the 1970s through the 1980s, the iconic gospel songs, which featured a lot of piano playing. So I'm going to demonstrate some of that sound, give you some of those chords, and of course, please feel free, those who are watching me on YouTube, to interact with me, to ask me questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking. These won't be very long series. How you doing, Regina? These won't be a very long series. I'm trying to keep it down to a half an hour so that I don't take up too much of your personal time. You can always see the replay. But I've got 20 songs already on tap, and some of the songs that I have selected, I left some out, and I'm going to somehow get them in there. But we're going to look at that gospel piano sound that used to draw people to church. That music was the biggest draw in the black or the African American Pentecostal church. People would come out of their church, go have dinner, and then come to a Sunday night service to hear that music that they didn't hear in their church. So enough talk from me. Let's transition our scene to where we're going to start this series, the soulful, unlocking rather, the soul of gospel piano. So here's where I'm going to start. For those that are listening, I don't have a podcast yet. I'm working towards that. So I will do some reading. I do like to read too. The 1970s and 80s were significant decades of gospel music, with many iconic songs and artists making their mark during this time. Here are 10, and we're not going to go through all 10 this time, but here are 10 influential gospel songs from that period. Now, they're not in the order in which I thought they would be in, but again, this is a free flowing series. We're not tied to, as they say, what it says. So I'm going to go down and start with Precious Lord, Take My Hand by Thomas A. Dorsey. Now, a lot of musicians need to be educated in that sound of music that they are currently playing in their church. I want to thank those who are watching from my Facebook page and my Facebook group. How are you doing? I'm doing this live on my YouTube page, so if you wish to comment or make conversation, you'll have to come to the YouTube page, Sound of Joy, all one word, on YouTube. As always, and I'm trying to throw this in there, if you like what this being presented from this channel, please become a subscriber, and of course hit that notification bell so you know whenever we go live or whenever we post a new video, and give us that like. So Thomas Dorsey's Precious Lord, Take My Hand was shunned in the early church because it sounded bluesy. It had a jazzy sound to it, but it sort of was an awakening to what was coming for the gospel piano sound. Now, if you see, I've got my Cordy app set up because I wanted to always be able to demonstrate some of that sound I heard. YouTube doesn't allow me to play back videos of this, but it doesn't mean I can't listen to the videos and emulate that particular sound, because it's all a part of the mix. Like any good cake, when you add different flavoring to it, it's still cake, but it has a much sweeter taste to it. So let's adjust this camera a bit so that I am not too far out of the scene. Now, for those that are from my era, you got to hear the actual musicians who only knew as much music as they knew play these songs. The jazz musicians that transitioned into the church were more skillful. They had an actual better palette of chords to choose from. So let's take you back to what the storefront church. Now the storefront church was always looked at as a very beginning of where you really heard the real music. It wasn't your professional musicians back then, but they had their own sound. We have to transition to what a storefront church sounded like. Not quite. There we go. That sound there is storefront. Let me see what we're doing now. Precious Lord. Now, that sound was accepted in a lot of churches, but there were quite a few that didn't like that sound because it sounded bluesy. It didn't sound like what they were used to hearing from the musicians who were, and a lot of them, because I came up under musicians who were taught to play piano. In other words, you put a hymn book in front of them and they sounded like the notes on the page. Take them out of that hymn book and I'll just be honest, they were totally lost. Change the key
and they're totally lost. So, but that doesn't take away from the fact that their skill set was designed for what they were hired to do: provide hymn music, anthem music, music that would suffice for getting them through the service. So when you got to these type of songs where uh, the musician now was off the paper, the jazz musicians, if you look at a lot of the older jazz videos, you don't really see sheet music in front of them. Today's jazz musicians who want to learn those styles, they have to have someone transcribe the sheet music so that their skill set, their learning set, can take them that place. So, still with the very bass heavy. Now, what they would do is they would roll the bass. This is this gospel, soulful gospel sound. Here's your jazz diminished chord. The 6, let me see, 2, 5. So that kind of music this style of playing was not foreign to me as a young 17-year-old being in a Pentecostal Kojic church. Some music wasn't allowed, but you had people who would come in, they would give their life to the Lord, and they brought their skill set with them. So if you got someone who used to be a blues singer and they wanted to sing a song, they would go to this song. This was one of your actual go-to songs, Precious Lord. The learned church musician would struggle with, first of all, no sheet music, and second of all, it not being the culture in which they came up in. So as a young musician, when I was given the opportunity to sit at the piano, and if this song came up, I'm sitting at the piano and I'm hearing someone get up to sing this song, I'm like, okay, they're singing down there, so I know this chord already. I know that chord already. So I could throw in this chord now and make that transition to now those are the James Cleveland chords. You have to be able to hear, and I think we're going to cover one of James Cleveland's songs also. I may try and snip a piece of the audio so you can hear. Those are the chords he would throw in. Not to say that he was a blues musician, but he picked up some of that style. Back in that time, the gospel artists, the iconic gospel artists, were musicians. They played also, like Tommy Dorsey. Not only did he play, but he also write songs. So you're going to get his infusion of what he wanted the song to sound like. Today, of course, we have producers who take a song and they pretty much re-script the music, whatever is the culture of that time. But back then, you heard the song, the singer was also the musician. They sat down and played the piano, nice tacky sounding. So that's what you heard. But that was that soulful sound. That was the sound that drew more people, I think, to the church than what you're hearing now. Now, of course, it was a different era. was a different mindset, a different culture, but the sound still had the ability to draw. And when you play it today, people still perk up and they go home. I haven't heard that ever. Or I remember that when I was a child, when my parents drugged me to church, that's what I heard then. Now I'm from that era. My parents drugged me to church. It wasn't a question of do you want to go. It was we're ready to go. different set. So that's the Tommy Dorsey sound. Take me. Diminished chords, and these sounds will have to become a part of your psyche so that when you hear them played and you have a chance to go and learn them, you will know what a diminished chord sounds like. Let me just change my scene a little bit here, because this is more than just me having a conversation with you. This is me giving you some understanding. That diminished sound, got that right? Yeah. That diminished sound it's iconic in the sound of gospel music. Let me see. This is going to be iconic in the sound of gospel music. That is the Cleveland Run. Now you can stay in the 2 or you can go to the 4, because the gospel music of that time, I believe they did use the number system too, because they kept their chords basic. The 5. You'll hear these 2 notes a lot with a chord with an octave. There's something about those particular runs in gospel piano playing that would capture the ear of the listener, because they didn't hear it all the time. To the diminished chord. Right there. The 6, 3, 5. Now I'm calling up the number system because it's helping those musicians that are looking to wean off the number system. Stay in the 5. So that's the Tommy Dorsey. Precious Lord, take my hand. I want to see who else is watching. Want to acknowledge those that are coming in. So, and I say this is not a series that is all scripted. Well, scripted, yes, but it's free willing. I may just go anywhere at any time. So we started with Precious Lord. We're going to shoot over to We've Come This Far by Faith. As it says here, this uplifting hymn became a gospel classic and is often performed or sang in churches to this day. Now, I've done a video lesson on We Come This Far by Faith. Pick your key that you want to put it in, but there are nuances about it that make the song easier to play in any key. So as we look at it, We Come This Far by Faith, we're still in A flat. Let me just stay. I'll tell you what, let me go down to G. You would have heard a lot of musicians, excuse me, get comfortable in my chair, a lot of musicians of that day doing that run. That's all they knew of jazz. I knew that because my mama, who played the piano, she would be. That's all she knew how to do. Of course, she did it up in the black keys. God rest in peace, Mama. Those were the extent of her chords up in the black keys. If they say, and there's been I saw a video where someone says the Negro scale is all the black keys because they were the easiest for them to play in. Okay, again, when I heard that, I'm like, hmm. Then they said, well, look at Amazing Grace. All in the black keys. Shout out to whoever put that video together. He had a point there. My mama played in all the black keys, but of course, as a young musician, I heard so many renditions of songs, not just church songs, but movie themes and cartoons in so many different keys. I wanted to learn all of them, which is why you see me break down songs the way I do. But just to digress, back to the key of G. We've come this far by faith is an iconic song. If you don't hear it in the church, then they have left roots of that particular style of music. Again, with the tacky, upright piano that hasn't been tuned sound. Da, 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 da. Iconic sound that how you doing, buddy? Iconic sound that would arouse your entire congregation, because how many times did they hear that song either as a march, beginning of service, or somewhere in the song where people are listening not just to the music but to the words. The music was a tremendous plus, though. So the piano, the sound of the piano was the soul of the church. Hammond organ, of course, began to become infused in the church as the funds, the revenue increased. Then it became palatable to invest in the Hammond organ, because now you were getting musicians who were coming in from, I'll say, outside of the church, who are not being school taught, who are learning, who are playing blues and jazz. And they were, again, this is just my interpretation. My father was a Hammond organ, rather still is a Hammond organ technician. We had a Hammond B3 and a Hammond C3 in my father's shop, and he would repair Hammond organs for several churches, because at the age of 9, I was asked to accompany him. And I say ask in a nice way. It was like, come on, you're going with me, pick up these tools, and we're going. So there were many churches that I went to where he was repairing the Hammond organs, and jazz clubs. So it wasn't like I was just immersed in church all of my life, but I got a chance to visit jazz clubs whose organs were Hammond B3, C3s. Let me see. No, mainly C3s and the B3 because of that sound and the look, because they're usually up on a stage. So I got my indoctrination of these type of sounds that I'm hearing now being acceptable in the church as a youngster, before I even got really comfortable playing it. But I got a chance to cut my teeth on the organ sound, because who else had to test it so that he could tell whether or not the work was done? He'd say, sit on the organ and try it out. And the more I tried it out, as I say, I play a lot of piano, which you see me doing here, but I'm really a Hammond organ player to heart. All both manuals, drawbars, foot pedals, expression pedal, Leslie. That's where I really excel. But I love piano also. The piano is the most recognizable instrument in gospel music. So we come this forward by faith. We're still in the, just changed my scene. We're still in the tacky sound, and you hear this run. This run with let me see. There we go. Ba-da-da-da. I'm fighting it because I've changed this style so much. My muscle memory is saying, why are you playing this? But I just want to be able to demonstrate this sound of the gospel sound of piano that was a eye-catching and ear-catching, because you'd always look over to the pianist. Most times the piano was facing the front of the church, and all you saw was the back of the musician. But all you saw was him cutting his teeth in these songs. Now the chord changed as the musician got away from looking at sheet music, because from my remembrance, there was no sheet music to this song in my day. Now, a lot of musicians don't understand. If you want to get to that next chord, raise the fifth and lower the third. That's all it is. And you'll never lose that chord. No matter what key you're in, just raise the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Raise the fifth. Note, lower the third. Stay on the 1. And you're right there. Just add the 7th. Now, when you're right here, if you want to go back, drop, go to the 4th, keep the 5th raised, and drop the 2nd, and now you got a -6. So from here, and you go back down. They really simplified this song so that your hands don't have to move so far away to get to the chords. And drop down. Bum, bum, bum. Scales. Yeah. Now that's the run that you will find iconic with the piano sound. There's your diminished, right? And a tritone. And you just change positions. There it is. What I always find is the alternate way you can play the same thing. just following a scale progression for the bass. So when a young jazz-infused big band theory-based young musician had to now play this song, I could hear what the others were doing, but then I wanted to add the big sound. So now I made it a whole big production. Bass movement, chords in between the melodies, transitions, crossover chords. A sound that again became iconic because other musicians would hear that movement and they go, wait a minute, I don't want to just do the 5, 1, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5. But the piano is meant to be played. Not only is it a musical instrument, but it is also a percussion, which means you get that pop. So I took advantage of them allowing me on the piano, because that means I could now navigate, when of course not going crazy, but navigate every now and then how I wanted to sound, or wanted the sound of this new gospel. And I'll often say I was immersed in it, where I got to hear it when it was when it was being allowed in. I put it that way, because I already had heard the sound of it from just practicing as an instrumentalist, that big band sound. There it is. But you always want to make your own, make space for yourself when someone gives you space. So that is the "We Come This Far by Faith" sound. Still, we with the upright piano sound. Next, and I'm, as I say, looking at this, making sure I'm trying to keep my timing down. And again, I thank those that are watching. It's very much appreciated. Let's adjust my camera. We're going to go to "Oh Happy Day." The crossover song. "Oh Happy Day" is a hymn. I'll call it an Irish influenced hymn that a new version of piano musicians came out and began to reshape the iconic sound of gospel you just heard me demonstrating and showing it to you. Oh, thank you very much. I can't quite pronounce your name. I'll say Brother or Sister Young. Please forgive me if I'm not sure who you are. And BCH for you, welcome. When "Oh Happy Day" came out, churches did not accept that new sound. They just welcome Antonio. they just got comfortable hearing that jazz of the Tommy Dorsey, James Cleveland. Um, I'm trying to think of all the other groups that were coming out and were flooding the church with that sound, because if you wanted to have your church filled, you had to bring in the music, that sound that filled your church. Well, and I know I'm jumping a bit. Oh Happy Day brought in a contemporary gospel sound, but still the piano led out. Now, of course, I cannot play the clip from it, or can I? Let's indulge YouTube a bit. I'm going to pull up Oh Happy Day just so that you can hear a snippet of what the piano sounded like in that era. I'm remapping my audio. Of course, I had to learn this sound coming from the big band sound. Let's see what we want to do here. We want to cut that down. And I want to pull up the original. Okay, here's the original. Okay, want to make sure no sound. And I think I'm going to stop on this one because I didn't want to keep these very long, because I'm going to have a whole month to do this whole series. But I want you to hear the changeover from what I was doing to what Oh Happy Day did. Get a notification that they heard that played A flat, but now the gone is the upright. We now got some money. So now here's where gospel music began to turn. And yes, the churches, some churches, I won't say all, because they had to be able to play in somebody's church, but you heard the piano starting it out, that soulful sound. Very iconic. If you heard somebody playing that on the piano, what's the first thing that's going to come to your mind? Don't need that. The very first song that's going to come to your mind, Oh Happy Day. Now, of course, the latter day musicians, and I'm one of them, we began changing it up to the flavor we wanted to put there. But the iconic sound is one that is still recognized after all these years. I'm not going to play it all the way through. I do have a video up, I believe, showing this song. If I don't, and if I'm requested, I will put one up using the actual chords from the recording. I mean, I can always have that's my take on it, because I always like to hear movement. But I also always give respect to the original music that was played, depending upon the song that I'm learning, because you always want to have a starting point. Well, I'm going to bring this to
I'm gonna bring this first part of the series. This is just number one of this series that we're going to be going through. I wanted to bring to light those iconic gospel piano sounds that actually moved not just the church but moved the world. Because if you at least in the New York City area, which is where I currently reside, churches are still being frequented by European tourists coming to the African American church, the black church for those who like that designation of a color. Let me get off my soapbox right there. To hear that iconic sound that they've heard on albums, that they heard their parents maybe play. These are the what's the term we use? Offsprings, those who are coming to tour the United States, especially the East Coast area, and they get on a tour bus. They come to the African American churches, not just one, because they're coming in busload, to hear that sound. Now, today's sound is not that sound they're coming to hear. They may get a snippet of it in respect to the fact that they really want to experience that sound of music, the gospel sound, and I'll say preferably the gospel piano sound that resonated in their spirit, and they wanted to know, I want to feel that music that I've been listening to recordings of. And that's all that I'm looking at doing with this series, is to give a different or added attraction to those who are taking my music course here on YouTube, who are learning songs for their particular church, but maybe not really understanding what was the origins of the style of music that birthed that particular song that they're learning. Do I know every song? No. Can I learn any song I hear and interpret its chord structure, its mode, its path? Yes. Because as a musician who was never trained by a formal piano teacher, someone who learned, as they say, with hearing and application of basic music theory, which is what I cover. You wonder why I always cover the scales in every one of my videos. It's because that's how I was able to hear the music and then place the chords within the context of whatever scale those chords were written in. The rest is technique. What is the technique that is being used? Is it a popping sound? Is it a stride sound? Is it just flat chords? Is it jazz? Is it Caribbean? Is it urban? That's what theory will do for you. It will give you a baseline that says, gee, what is this chord they're playing? What key is it in is the first thing. Second is, what is the scale of that chord? Take away the notes you don't hear, play the ones you do hear, you've got the chord. The more that you practice I'll consider for that technique and that concept, then any song that you hear will not be out of reach for you. Again, Sam Tobit, Sound of Joy Music Services. As you can see right there, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. We do love to see the numbers going up. We are currently over 30,100. Thank you for those who have been subscribing over the past year. Like the video. The likes, YouTube pays attention to the likes. They will place my videos on other music related sites and other searches. And of course, leave your comments, because I read them all. Thank you again. This is just part one. We're going to be looking at all these songs for the entire month, and I'll give you a preview, because we didn't cover all today. I'm trying to keep my time limit down. I think I've already gone over 30 minutes.
But we still have to do Amazing Grace by Aretha Franklin, but those are not all. We have got the first 10. Order My Steps is on the list. Changed, another Walter Hawkins classic, that's on the list. I Won't Complain, another inspirational song, that's on the list. Andre Crouch has made the list soon and very soon. That's what's coming. Going Up Yonder, Walter Hawkins has got so many iconic songs from one album. And yes, Jesus is Love by the Commodores. As I say, iconic gospel songs led out by the piano.
Led out by the piano sound, that when you hear that piano, that soulful sound of that gospel piano, you immediately know what song is coming. Immediately. It's not even a thought. You're ready, as I say, musically and lyrically, to jump right into it. That's what this series is all about. Recognizing and giving homage to the gospel piano sound. And hopefully you'll learn something. Take care now, and thank you for being a part with us today. See you on the next live session. Bye.